Hi everyone, it's Sid from Cool Movie Gram, your source for everything about cool movies. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and check out my other videos, and just push me more into the algorithm. Thank you so much to all of those who have actually just recently subscribed to my channel, and I do appreciate it a lot. And of course, that giveaway is still going, as mentioned on my last previous video. Just let me know who your favorite filmmaker is, and I'm giving it till the end of this week, so just get your comments in and I will be picking a winner. Right, and well, yes, here what we're here for today is my top 50 favorite action movies. This time around, the fifth part, so we're on the halfway mark of these videos. Believe it or not, I'm having a lot of fun just making these videos, talking about these movies. It's numbers 30 to 26. So yep, so we're covering now the bottom 25 of my top 50 movies, and then going videos will be the top 25. So we're more and more entering into the 5-star territory for my movies. And without further ado, let's get to it. Right, number 30 is Desperado, 1995, a US movie directed by Robert Rodriguez, starring Antonio Banderas, Salma Hayek, Steve Buscemi, and a host of others, as you would expect in a Robert Rodriguez movie. This was his follow-up to his breakthrough El Mariachi, which was kind of like guerrilla filmmaking at its most finest. This time around, we see the character of El Mariachi, played by Antonio Banderas, out for vengeance after the death of his former lover at the hand of a drug lord. Roaming around from Mexican town to Mexican town, killing drug dealers, searching for the mysterious man named Bucho. And he gets involved with a pretty bookstore owner who has a link to Bucho, and eventually has to fight off a lot of assassins and men who belong to the cartel and whatnot. And again, realizing that the man Bucho has actually more in common and a much more deeper relationship with the character of El Mariachi. What can I say? This was made at the time when action movies were kind of like on the decline in the mid-late 90s. They started kind of like just becoming like less and less frequent, less and less violent. And a lot of films are just kind of like more or less just aiming towards the PG-13 market. This one had it all. I mean, you had hot women, you had Salma Hayek. Come on, she was absolutely gorgeous in this movie, and she still is. And you had like lots of violent action, the fast-paced and just explosive kind of like shootouts. And it's just the way that it was shot, the cinematography and everything from it. I mean, you could tell, even if you watch the DVD bonus features, you could see that Robert Rodriguez was very much influenced a lot by John Woo's movies, who at the time was the best action filmmaker working in the world at that point. He had just broken into Hollywood, but at the same time his movies like The Killer and Hard Boiled had a huge cult following in the US, and that's how Robert Rodriguez, being the kind of person who's into these kind of like cult movies and grindhouse cinema, world cinema, he kind of took that inspiration and ran with it and made like possibly one of the best action movies of the 90s without doubt. It's just it was awesome. And Antonio Banderas, I mean, this is him at his most awesome. I mean, I thought his performance in this movie was really good, and even though it was followed up with a sequel many years later called Once Upon a Time in Mexico, which wasn't too bad, It was okay. It was pretty decent. It was fun. But this one just had a different edge. Out of the trilogy, this is my favorite. I mean, out of the El Mariachi trilogy, I'd say Desperado definitely is the high point of that of the three films. I mean, it just showed how amazing Robert Rodriguez really is. At 29 is Raging Fire, 2021, a Hong Kong movie directed by the late Benny Chan, starring Donnie Yen, Nicholas Che, and Queen Lan or Chin Lan, however you pronounce it. I don't know the correct pronunciation for that. Yeah, this was again covered in a review of the Cine Asia Blu-ray, which is on this channel already. If you haven't seen it, check it out. A great movie again, starring Donnie Yen as an honest cop who sees himself being targeted by a former colleague and now a mercenary criminal who's out for vengeance, who felt he was wronged. And throughout this, you kind of see his personal life and his life, kind of like the policeman's personal life, and his professional life kind of being put on the stake as both men clash without kind of thinking of the repercussions and whether they are going beyond the line of like whether they're upholding the law or breaking it, especially when it comes to Donnie Yen's character. Now, yeah, again, as covered in my review, this definitely is one of the last great Hong Kong movies that have come out in the last couple of years. I mean, it's peppered with amazing action sequences. I mean, some of the fight scenes in the car chases done to absolute perfection. Again, Donnie Yen just had a great Donnie Yen had a great kind of like eye for detail. Even Benny Chan himself, they knew how to kind of shoot great action sequences. And the fact that Donnie Yen actually gives a very earnest performance. I mean, he's shedding away a lot of his indestructible badass roles that he normally is used to playing. But he this time plays a cop that is vulnerable. He, is very kind of like has a very gentle side to him, but at the same time he can get hurt in a lot of the altercations, which you don't get to see in many action movies. And Nicholas Tay, again, he stole the show in this movie as the villain, as the antagonist, and kind of gives a very layered performance. The fight choreography in this, there's only maybe a couple of fights in this, but they just look absolutely amazing. There's a lot of throwbacks to great action movies, including action sequences from the past, including Michael Mann's 1995 movie Heat. John Woo's The Killer is kind of like referred to in this film. And just in general, I mean, just the whole kind of like the landscape, the cinematography of of Hong Kong itself. It's just put to really great use, and just makes for a brilliant action movie. And again, as I've said on my review of this film, I would say you need to see this movie to kind of really appreciate it. And definitely, this is what great action movies are meant to be. Just kind of entertaining, kind of do deep, rich characters, interesting characters, and just full of amazing sequences, stunts, fight scenes. It kind of came as a welcome breath of fresh air since I don't know, Hong Kong movies have not really been the same in the last couple of decades or so. It's just that they seem to have kind of, I don't know, maybe dipped in quality somehow. I mean, the filmmakers are not really kind of like focusing as much on the quality as they usually are. But that's what I mean. The recent action movies from Hong Kong really haven't been kind of remarkable as such. But then this was just wow. Thank you. We really needed this, and this was actually Benny Chan's last film. This was he knew he was diagnosed with cancer with a limited amount of time to live, and after filming the movie, he kind of told the team who was editing the film, said, "This is what I want from the movie," and he knew he was ill and he ain't going to be around. And even the film itself kind of pays tribute to Benny Chan, I mean, who has made great action movies in the past. I mean, some of them have already been mentioned on this list from before, but this itself was kind of like a great last hurrah and a fitting tribute to his contribution. And I would definitely definitely love to kind of like maybe see more from other filmmakers in terms of movies of a similar nature, and that would make for something, you know, something more to look forward to, especially from Hong Kong. I mean, they've always made great action movies. I don't know why they want to kind of like slow down their output now. Number 28, John Wick, 2014, directed by Chad Stahelski, starring Keanu Reeves, Ian McShane, Lance Reddick, Willem Dafoe, John Leguizamo, and Alfie Allen. What can I say about this movie? John Wick. Yeah, man, a former retired assassin known as Baba Yaga. Not the boogeyman, but the man you sent to kill the boogeyman. He's a man who's retired from the underworld, living a peaceful life after the death of his wife. He's looking after a dog, and his dog gets killed and by a gangster's son, and his car is stolen. And being the man that John Wick is, decides to kind of like go back into the world that he had left just to get revenge. So he just takes names and kicks ass. But what I loved about this movie the most, I mean, Keanu Reeves played the role to perfection. He kind of gave like a great performance in this movie, and it was peppered out with great action sequences, and also it's just the cinematography, the visuals of this film. I mean, all the whole trilogy itself. I mean, at the moment, I would say it's been one of the best like kind of action franchises to come out from Hollywood in years. I mean, yeah, I mean, there's some great kind of like action fight sequences, including some grappling and whatnot, and just the use of like kind of the shootouts and like the kind of techniques that Keanu Reeves is actually showing in this movie are great. But one of the things that really appealed to me about this film was the detailed, rich character kind of the background and development, and the world itself, the way it's created, this kind of graphic novel world where you see this character kind of going to a hotel which is dedicated to assassins, and they have a network that kind of coexists amongst the legal system and other kind of just other aspects of society, and just this kind of underworld kind of feeling to it, where a lot of people are kind of like, you know, this whole world there's a lot of kind of people, a lot of levels to it, and you know, this is kind of further explored in the sequels. Definitely, this was a great comeback for Keanu Reeves. I mean, this movie was what kind of like brought him back after, well, he did the Matrix trilogy, and then he kind of fell off a little by making a few hits and a few misses. But this was kind of like what he needed in his career, just to give that kind of like spark back. And his commitment to this role, the fact that he got into amazing shape, continued practicing in like martial arts. He started doing that after the first Matrix, when he was trained for 6 months to be a part of the Matrix by the Young Wu Ping's stunt team. And he actually kind of pursued martial arts afterwards as a hobby and as like kind of like something to kind of perfect. And we get to see that kind of side of Keanu Reeves as an actor and an action star, showing that he's actually kind of matured and he can still make it look awesome. I mean, the fact that the guy's in his 50s and he still kicks a lot of ass, I mean, just says a lot. It puts younger guys like myself and a lot of us to shame. I mean, what can I say? But yeah, definitely, I would, you know, again, a lot of people must have seen this movie. It's great. It's, you know, it's fast paced, detailed, rich characters, and the character development's really good. Performances again across the board. Even Willem Dafoe as an assassin and also kind of like an associate of John Wick. John Leguizamo as a shady garage chop shop owner who kind of works in affiliation with the underworld and the assassins and like and mobsters. And even Alfie Allen as a snivelling little annoying SOB who's you know, who kind of kicks off the whole chain of events, you know, bringing everything down just because of his arrogance. And it's just, again, really cool. It's just like, this is what a cool action movie more or less looks like. I mean, again, it was again a welcome breath of fresh air from from Hollywood. I mean, we didn't get to see normally these kind of action movies, because everything else. I mean, this is like a graphic novel, although it's nothing like any other comic book movies. I mean, it's far from what you see in your usual Marvel or DC fare. I mean, this is a lot darker, violent, and just kind of like has a steely, cold kind of feel to it, to the world that this is kind of like created by Stahelski. But definitely, I would, again, a highly recommended movie. Now, I could see why it's so popular. It just kicks a lot of ass. Right, 27. We have Killville, 2003, US, directed by Quentin Tarantino, starring Uma Thurman, David Carradine, Lucy Liu, Michael Madsen, and Gordon Liu, and a host of others. The film itself stars Uma Thurman as a former assassin known as the Bride, who went by the moniker of Black Mamba. Was part of the Deadly Viper assassination squad, who's left for dead, and and her wedding was massacred, and then she wakes up from a coma. They're once again honing her skills and her abilities, then just to go take names, kick ass, and get vengeance for the people who wronged her. Well, what can I say? But this was Tarantino's tribute to Kung Fu cinema. Now, I've watched martial arts movies since I was a really young child. I mean, most of the films that people are discovering on Blu-ray, thanks to amazing boutique labels such as 88 Films, Eureka Entertainment. In the US, they have Criterion, and also Arrow Video. And the US also has Vinegar Syndrome, but we also have these are like the main people are kind of like re-releasing some of the classic martial arts movies, including the Shaw Brothers filmography, in great HD or 2K, 4K restorations. And I saw these films on VHS, and the soundtrack was great, and just the performances were great. I mean, one of the things that made this film really well was the writing and the performances, especially Uma Thurman. She absolutely nailed it, and she got her Golden Globe award well deservedly. She deserved it for this film. And this is one of the things you'd see that, like, right now, as of recent, for some reason, Hollywood just really sucks at writing strong female characters. Now, I mean, whether it's Marvel, DC, or whoever, it's just Disney itself. It's just whenever they're making films, I mean, every female character, like, they're supposed to be like a tough female character, strong female lead, they just have no real characteristics. All they're like, I'm a badass and deal with it. That's all they add to the film. They don't have anything else. It's just but this time around they actually created a female character that was very kind of well written, rich, and as well as being a badass, and just very complex at the same time. I mean, you had great performances. Like, for example, you had one of the last few appearances of the late Sonny Chiba, who had passed away earlier on, not long ago. And you also had Gordon Liu doing two roles. First as one of the Crazy 88s, which is Lucy Liu's band of badasses, and also as Pai Mei. I mean, a character that he's always faced as a villain in a lot of movies. But this was it was kind of like a throwback to a lot of those movies. I mean, that Tarantino himself, or even people like myself, who kind of like grew up watching, and it was kind of interesting. I mean, he also had a tribute to little nods to Bruce Lee, including the Kato masks and the infamous yellow jumpsuit from Game of Death. I mean, although recently his comments about Bruce Lee and what's happened with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, a lot of Bruce Lee fans, or fans in the Kung Fu community itself, are not really too pleased on what Tarantino has actually kind of done in terms of in terms of this film. It's just kind of left a bit of a bitter taste. But then when a great action movie has been made, you know, it's hard to like not recognize it. I mean, there is a Japanese out of print DVD which has the House of Blue Leaf sequence fully uncut and all in color, and that's also featured in the rarely seen Whole Bloody Affair, which is, instead of having the film in 2 installments, it's one long movie, and it has the that sequence in color and in full too. Don't know whether or not, I mean, now that Paramount has the rights to Miramax since the whole Weinstein debacle, maybe we might get the a Blu-ray of this director's cut someday soon. We don't know. Who knows? Maybe it might appear on Paramount Plus. But I hope so. You know, it would be nice to kind of have that in the collection. So definitely, and even David Carradine playing as Bill was pretty good, and some of the key sequences in terms of the action was, of course, the House of Blue Leaf sequence, and even the first fight sequence between Uma Thurman and Vivica A. Fox. I mean, it even has a little nod to Police Story in that actual sequence, where she kind of like throws a shelf on Uma Thurman, which was pretty much exactly like Police Story. And you know, there were just nods to a lot of classic martial arts movies, and just kind of the whole grindhouse kind of cinema feel to it. But definitely, I mean, this for me, I mean, it always has been, for me, Kill Bill has been a pretty fun movie. I know there was a YouTuber who kind of said that it sucked, but I would say it's kind of, you know, it did open a lot of people and their kind of perception of martial arts cinema in general as more than just chop socky action. They kind of introduced them to not just Chinese martial arts movies, but also Japanese samurai movies and such as well. Like, for example, Shogun Assassin, which was referred to in this movie, and you see a lot of kind of nods to other movies, including Lady Snowblood, which was a huge influence on Tarantino's Kill Bill. Number 26 for lastly is The Villainous, which is a 2017 South Korean film directed by Jung Byung-gil, starring Kim Ok-min, Shin Ha-kyun and Sung Hoon and others. This film is about a young female who's been trained as an assassin by her father since a young age, and eventually when her father is supposedly being killed, she goes on a rampage, gets arrested, and then she's taken in by a shady government organization who's kind of like, you know, offers to train her to become a much more accomplished and more skillful assassin. But because at the time she's also got a young child, and she decides to kind of like live a peaceful life, and then meets a young man who she falls in love, but at the same time she's carrying out jobs. But then when she finds out that one of her targets is the man that had actually trained her, or her father, played by Shin Ha-kyun, it kind of messes up her psyche, and you see her world, her peaceful world crumbling. And again, this is a great kind of like example of really well written, strong female characters, which again, Hollywood at the moment does not have an idea of how to really write them. You know, it's really cool. I mean, again, some of the great action sequences, one that way includes like, you know, a motorcycle where she's on a motorcycle, and you got these assassins with samurai swords riding motorcycles trying to chop her through. Bearing in mind this was in 2017, before the movie John Wick Chapter 3, which kind of was pretty much lifted this action sequence from The Villainous. That action sequence was lifted from The Villainous. And again, you know, just the whole kind of like you know, the way that the film again was shot. I mean, the first opening action sequence was pretty much a very kind of like first person view, like pretty much like that movie Hardcore Henry, which had come out not too long ago before this film, and or around about that same time. And yeah, you kind of see like how she's kind of like taking down all these people, killing and kicking ass all the way through. And it's just what kind of really sells it is Kim Ok-min's her expressions, the way that she displays this vulnerability. Although she's a very deadly assassin in this film, she's playing this very kind of vulnerable, you know, very kind of human person who's put into this kind of situation where, you know, she's kind of damned if she does, damned if she doesn't. I mean, if she doesn't fight back, she can get killed, but then if she does, you know, she could, you know, be putting herself at risk, and as well as, you know, her daughter and also her family, you know, the people that she cares about. And yeah, again, this is one of the things that which makes me love South Korean films, is just that the cinematography is just amazing. The visuals, you know, for me, I mean, I would say they're the leaders when it comes to great cinematography, even great storytelling at the moment. South Koreans have been absolutely, you know, have been absolutely killing the whole kind of market itself. It's just ever since their kind of like the Renaissance, which started in the early 2000s. They've kind of, you know, since with, you know, directors like Kim Ji-woon, Park Chan-wook, and many others, and also Bong Joon-ho. They absolutely, you know, they've kind of changed the landscape of world cinema. I mean, you know, they make anything from great action movies, great comedies, great dramas, thrillers, horror movies. These three films, Parasite, Villainous, and A Taxi Driver, I mean, these have been like another one showing the resurgence, or, you know, just the dominance that South Korean filmmakers have over the industry. I mean, Hong Kong used to have that, especially when it comes to Eastern filmmaking. But for me, I would say South Koreans at the moment have been killing in the last few decades. Yeah, and definitely, I would say if you haven't seen this movie, I mean, Arrow Video had released it on a very kind of bare bones-ish DVD, but or Blu-ray, sorry. And but you know, the movie is brilliant. I mean, if you haven't seen it, I urge you, watch this movie. It's just absolutely just filled to the brim with great action, really good performances, great cinematography, and a really interesting, compelling story. And like the characters are very compelling, and it's a badass movie with a lot of heart. Well, that was my my list of my favorite action movies, number 30 to 26. Well, the next ones are going to be a bit more, a lot better. The movies are getting better and better. We're moving into the 5-star territory soon, so watch the space. And I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and subscribe to my channel and like and comment. Okay, I mean, what would you say that your favorite action movies in the last decade were? Just let me down in this last, well, the last decade and even this decade so far that would be. What have been your favorite action movies that have come out in that time? Let me know in the comments.